New Thought Media Network proudly presents Having Courageous Conversations, where real talk dives deep. Each week we go beyond surface talk. We open our hearts, speak our truths, and dive into the stories that shape us. No scripts, no filters, just powerful, unforgettable conversations about life, purpose, healing, and truth. Join the conversation, because your voice belongs here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out our YouTube channel at Having Courageous Conversations or email us at yourshowyourvoice@gmail.com. Now, let's have a courageous conversation.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this episode of Courageous Conversations. Having Courageous Conversations is a heartfelt, spirit-led online series where we explore the transformative power of honest dialogue. Rooted in authenticity, compassion, and spiritual awareness, this show invites voices from all walks of life to engage in meaningful conversations. Many times, having conversations we often avoid, but deeply need to be having. I'm Mark Dupuis, and I'm delighted to be here. Today, we miss our co-host, Cheryl Rogers, as she's attending a conference. And today, I'll be having a conversation with my dear friend, Laura Quirk, as our guest speaker. Thank you for bringing Laura in. Dr. Laura Quirk is currently a full-time professor at Conestoga College. She has been teaching at the university level since 1996. I might add that Dr. Laura has been a frequent flyer at our show. We're so grateful to have her here. She has an undergraduate degree in archaeology, a master's in anthropology, a master's in history, and a PhD in history, with minors in archaeology and gender. Before she was a professor, sorry, my cursor wouldn't go down. She was on a disability pension for 17 years due to multiple sclerosis. And it was during that time that she managed to complete her degrees. That's just amazing. She has had various works published, including a free online ongoing project that she calls the Hope Project. Welcome, Laura. And in the past, we've talked about your journey with MS, the Hope Project that I just spoke about, why normal sucks. I believe the last episode you spoke about losing your voice and the challenges around that. And I know now that at the college, you're experiencing a lot of disrupt as your colleagues exit. And I wondered if you wanted to address that and speak to us about the possibility of hope in that situation.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the introduction. And I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for asking. I certainly think it's so important, especially in this world, to do our very best to talk about hope and what hope means to us, and how to navigate the world with hope, as opposed to, I don't know, the opposite, whatever the opposite is to hope. And I think there's despair, and many words you could use for that. At the college, yes, we are currently experiencing quite a difficult time. I'm sure you've heard on the news that not only have we lost over 200 support staff, we have so far lost 184 full-time faculty, and they're laid off, which is what I mean by lost. And we have lost many faculty that we used to teach 4 classes, and now they only teach 2. And so it's a very unsettled time in terms of we either have full-time or people teaching 2 and nothing in the middle. And normally there's a lot of people who teach 4, which is known as partial load. And so we have people who've not only been let go, we have faculty who are suddenly gone from 4 to 2. And when there's 4 courses, you get all kinds of benefits, and you get a higher pay. If you're part-time, no benefits, lower pay. And there's only 2 classes. And so for many people, there's financial concerns and worries. There is obviously emotional ones. There's many people who've spent their entire lives doing nothing but wanting to be professors. And now they suddenly can't be because they are being let go. And or the college is also saying, gosh, we're letting you go, but you can teach 2 courses still with us part-time. And so it's kind of a kick in the head, really, for a lot of people. And so it has been a very hopeless sort of time, in very much the opposite of that being despair. There's been a lot of despair and a lot of upset. And a lot of my job, I'm a professor, of course. I teach, and that's an honor and a delight always. But I also have a job where I am the coordinator, where I help faculty. That's my job. I mostly don't help students, although I can also help any student at the college for a variety of reasons in my role, because I teach in the department interdisciplinary studies or liberal studies, and every program has at least 20% of their program having electives. So I teach into programs across the entire college. So on some level, I can deal with students at every level. However, mostly what I deal with is faculty and help faculty. And our faculty numbers have altered very significantly because, of course, we had all these full-timers that teach 5. We had partial load that teach 4. And now everybody can only teach 2 unless you're full-time. And now we've gone from 29 full-timers to 15 in my department. And so we have this incredible, just lots and lots of people teaching part-time. And so we've had to bring people back, had to find people again. So not only are we dealing with people who are leaving, we're having people who are joining again the college thinking, oh, now's my chance. Maybe I'll get to work here. And they have hope for that. And so there has been a kind of strange dance between hopelessness and trying to be hopeful, and trying to wish that maybe the college will call people back after they've let them go. Because how they're leaving it with the full-time faculty is, if you are being let go, and so what they got was a 90-day pay to retrain, and anybody who's been a professor their lives, that's all they're training for. There's no way 90 days to retrain is going to help anybody do anything. But never mind, that's coming to an end in a week and a half, the 90 days. And so now people are going to be let go. They're laid off officially. And so what happens is, once they're laid off, they could be recalled in the next 2 years, and they'd get their position back, and as it was. So this is what I mean by, it's a weird dance between hopelessness, you're being let go, and hopefulness, being hopeful that someday you'll get recalled. So what I do, though, what I'm trying to do is, I've spent a lot of time in my job with faculty just listening, just listening and hearing people, and I've shared with them that in as much, I was grief-stricken when I found out all these people were leaving. I am still very deeply sad. I am struggling to not cry quite often, to be honest, and it's just really, really hard. But I tell my faculty that my goal every day is to add something in my day that makes me feel good. I don't go to bed at night until I've done that. And so sometimes it's really, really big, something, and I'm not sure what that could be. Mostly, though, they're little. Like, my friend and colleague has 2 small children, and so she'll send me photos of them, and sometimes I'm thinking, there it is, that's my thing for today, because it makes me happy and joyful to see these little ones and doing weird and wonderful things. She does the most amazing things with her kids. And so that's sometimes it's talking to my bestie or texting my bestie or thinking about life, and sometimes it's looking at art, and sometimes it's reading a poem, and sometimes it's hugging my dog. And sometimes it's knowing that I had a good day, that I did my best, and so focusing on that. So to be honest, every day I add something. So I suggest to my faculty who are going through a hard time to try the same, to not let the day go without putting something in it. There's something in it to give them joy, and hopefully then to give them hope as well. And
can I just interrupt you for a second? Yes. I'm getting a message from Deja that we're getting feedback because I have earphones in, so I'm going to remove them and see if I can fix the problem. So if you don't mind just pausing for a sec.
I will pause.
Thank you. Can you say something to me now? I cannot hear you, unfortunately. So we're back. We had a technical glitch with the sound, so we thought in order to carry on, we probably need the sound to be working properly. Laura, what I recall last was you were speaking of little hints that you give yourself to bring yourself into hope, to bring your maybe elevate your mood. Seeing pictures of little ones, and did you want to expand on that or shift?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at, interestingly, is in the past when I thought about hope as something that was kind of distant and out there and something I wanted and would aim for, and it felt outside of myself somehow, that it was something to reach for. It's not that I knew I had to have the hope in me in order to make something happen, but I think my ideas about hope have changed. I think in the last little while, I've begun to realize that for me, hope is everywhere, every day. It is not something that is maybe someday out there going to happen, that I'm going to hope for it now, that maybe it will appear. And I think for me, I've realized that hope is actually something I'm experiencing every day. And, I think what's interesting for me is that hope has been very heavy at times. But at other times it has felt, especially lately, like it has wings, like it's flying. And I suppose, sometimes you carry hope and sometimes hope carries you. And so I feel like that's what I mean by wings. And so I guess what's happened at the college is just an understanding that my idea of hope, I wish these people were not being let go. I wish all these things were not happening. And I would hope that they have lives that make them happy afterwards. But I suppose I also hope that happens right now, today, which is why I keep going back to, this is what I'm doing to be feeling good today, what I'm trying to, because I don't want to think, well, someday maybe if I work on this, I'll feel better. And I think that's how my ideas of hope have shifted, and why I think right now what's important to talk about today in our world is to try to find ways that we feel hopeful every day, that we put something, a spark into our lives. Because I think life is always about choice. You choose that you do one thing or many other paths you could go on, and the choices that you make impact. And I think if you are saying to yourself, today was a good day, today is a good day, right now is a good moment, and this is what I'm going to do to make it even better for myself. And I don't have to hope that someday I'll feel better. And well, I might be doing that through tears. I might be doing that having a horrible feeling in my heart that things are not going well. I still think there's this smaller ways of finding hope. So I think why I want to talk about it today was I have realized that my ideas of hope have gone from enormous and out there to intimate and personal and everyday, not someday. And And I know I've talked about the fact that when hope is all you have left, sometimes you're just hanging on with the last thread, hoping for against hope that something is going to change. And I think I feel that too still, that sometimes for a lot of my colleagues, hope is all they have left right now. There's nothing else.
Is that
And
the heavy part when you said hope can feel heavy? Is that the heavy
yes,
that you're
yes,
speaking of?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you for asking that. Yes. And because sometimes hope is like, my dear, I'm not wanting to tell your story, but I know that you have gone through so much that's been difficult for years now. And so I continually hope for you that things are going to get better. And there's a heaviness to that hope as I've seen you have struggled. And not that I'm thinking I don't want to carry that hope. Of course I do. And as there's now some wings attached to that hope, I am feeling overjoyed for you. And the hope that I'm feeling is bigger and longer. But I'm also hoping for today, just this day. I hope it's better, because there's been so many days that we're not. And so I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that hope for me has gone from being just this huge thing to something that is here as well, internal, personal, smaller, and everything in the middle. But yeah, so but sometimes that hope that has wings, like to feel that it's lighter, to feel that you've made a difference in a day it's, I guess, all I mean, to me, that's just what I wanted to talk about, because I think this whole idea of mending your wings when there's no hope, and trying to find ways that we can fly and we can get out of this. And sometimes it starts in really small little ways.
Mhm. I think you're giving the listeners, the viewers, an opportunity to grasp something, even if it's small, to focus on, because we do have those opportunities. And it doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen,
Right?
and we can't be upset about it, or going through all of those emotions, right? To get to another side. And in the midst of it,
Yeah.
if we can have one small focus of a pleasure, something that lightens our heart, that's helpful in the hope or hopelessness.
Yes, 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 exactly. And sometimes it's is it even lifting? Sometimes it doesn't change. I mean, it's not going to change the bigger thing, but in that moment, in that little time frame. And so how many times have you and I talked about when you say something out loud, your mind hears it. So sometimes one of the things that my good thing has been is my mantra, which I've shared before. I feel healthy. I feel happy. I feel terrific. Sometimes that has been my thing that day. Right, Laura Quirk, you feel healthy. You feel happy. You feel terrific. Even if I'm not feeling those things, it is just, again, right. It's maybe going to give me hope that I will be if I'm not. And so, I mean, I know that sounds simplistic, but it is oddly incredibly complex as a concept. So yeah, I really wanted to talk about how hope is changing for me, how it's changed from being a big thing and something I thought I would reach for and try to obtain. And it is that, but it's also smaller. Yeah.
What I'm hearing, it sounds like it's gone from being work to awareness.
It still works sometimes, but yes, you're absolutely right. There's, I mean, sometimes I believe hope. I think choices can be very hard work. I think we can push ourselves very hard to make choices, and it's a lot of work. But yes, 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 it is also awareness. I mean, I often think to myself about things about the college. I can't do anything about them. As hard as that is for me to just be able to do nothing, it just is. So where is the hope in that? Where is the moment? Where is the time when I can say, okay, Laura Quirk, let that go. And what is your part here? What can you do? Well, what I can do is listen. What I can do is try to offer someone else some hope. What I can do is not trivialize, not minimalize, not say, well, candy coat, it's all going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. It's not going to be fine at all. And I've talked to a number of people that are pivoting. They are completely leaving the college sector and going to do other things. And there's a number of them that have done that, and it's heartbreaking. I keep hoping those people will someday come back because they're so good. And yet the rest of the world will benefit from this change, and they will do other things. And so, but they've spent all their lives planning to do this. It is very hard to go down that road, and now I'm doing something else. And it's, so yes, to try to offer hope in those moments. I know that they're hopeless, some of them right now.
Yeah. I also, if I look at your life, Laura, and it took you 17 years, right, to get your doctorate, and then you're talking about your colleagues that I believe you're going to miss.
Yes.
Based on what I've heard you say, they've become friends, and so they're part of your heart, they're part of your work world. And so there's Laura that has taken 17 years to get to where you want to be. And now they're giving up on their degrees, and they'll still have them, but they're not doing what you drove so hard to achieve. I wonder if is there some kind of feeling there for you as they are making their choice to leave in that way?
For sure.
Leave teaching.
For sure. I spent all those years, yes, with the end goal of doing this as a profession. I mean, what's ironic to me, or ironic's not the right word here, but my faculty are being given 90 days to retrain. I'm sorry, 90 days to retrain is what? At McDonald's? Like, what could you train for? Yes, in 90 days. It's funny and it's not funny. And you've spent, most of them didn't spend 17 years, but many of them spent 8, 10 years, 12 years to get all the degrees they needed to teach. And in 90 days, they're going to retrain for something else. It's just so utterly ludicrous. I mean, thankfully they're being paid the 90 days. So that's a bonus, I guess. But at the same time, what? Excuse me, what? And so, yes, it's really, you're right. I think about my journey. But interestingly, Mark, I mean, look I didn't want to lose my job. And I didn't think I was at risk because I'm high on seniority, not for any other reason. This has all been a seniority set of decisions about who went and who didn't. But I mean, I was just lucky I was in the right place at the right time. But I was clearly, like, I had one night where I was, oh, what if I lose my job? And then I just sort of settled down. I thought, I'll deal with it. I've done the before. I'll find a way. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I'm old enough that lots of people would say just retire, but that is not even sort of what I'm interested in doing. I still want to work, and I have no interest in walking away from this thing I spent 17 years working on. So I think I would be utterly devastated. And I think it would be one of those things that I would say, right, what's next then? What am I going to do? And I wouldn't, I don't know, wallow in self-pity about that. I mean, I don't think I would. Maybe I would for a little bit, but not too much. So anyway, I think you're right, though. I can't help but look at them and think, what did you put in this to be this in this career? And I was talking to somebody yesterday who asked to talk to me and just really needed an ear. And so I was listening, and they said that to me. They said, this was not their choice. This is not what they want to do, but they have to feed their kids. And so they have to find something else and take another path. And what they've told me they want to do, they'd be really good at. So there's this part of me thinking, this isn't wasted. The time they spend as a professor isn't wasted. The education they have isn't wasted. And I think there's ways that it's actually going to make them really good at the job that they want to do. So there's this part of me that thinks, that's exciting and wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I have to recognize that currently they feel pretty devastated and a little hopeless, although they're trying to find something else. I wonder if they didn't have kids, if they would be this far along with thinking about that. Yeah. But anyway, hope is a funny thing that way again. This is a heavy hope for this person. It's not a light one, that's for sure.
It just means this and, right? Both and, right? So this person may find a career that just fulfills them in ways that they never thought. I know for my own life's journey, excuse me, things have happened in my world that I would not have chosen. And I can see how I've grown and things that I'm doing that I never thought I would do. And likely, if this hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So,
Entirely.
yeah. So the old pivot that came out of COVID, right? Pivoting happens. I know with Unity Kitchener, we only met in person. And then COVID happened and we went online. And so now we have people attending from all across Canada and sometimes through the States. So how amazing is that? So life can throw us, throw us lemons and we make lemonade.
So they say.
Not to make light of it, Laura.
No.
And we're almost at a halfway point. Excuse me. Let's go for a break. I know. And we'll come back. And I want to ask how you are physically. I know stress can affect our bodies in different ways. And yours is extra challenged in some ways. So I want to know how you are keeping your strength, your body strength. So we'll go on a commercial and we'll come back in about 5 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Away.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Unity of Garden Park, New Thought Philadelphia, the Sunshine Cathedral, Unity of Savannah, and the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
And we're back.
Hello.
So when we left, I was, posed a question, Laura, about your health. And during this challenging time. How are you staying healthy? Are you staying healthy?
Thank you for asking. I feel great. I certainly have had some interesting things. 2025 was not my favorite year. I lost my voice for 6 months, and that was fascinating. I know we've talked about that previously and just what that was about for me. I have multiple sclerosis, and so there's no doubt there's all kinds of elements. I take medications for pain and spasticity every day. And so I am hearing the feedback again. Are you hearing it, Mark?
I am not.
Deja just put a note up. She's hearing it too.
Thank you for staying with us. Today, there is a little gremlins in our audio feed. So Deja is kindly pausing us so we can fix the gremlins and ask them to leave. And we're back again with Laura, and she's telling us now about her health experience during this challenging time.
So yes, having multiple sclerosis means I have pain every day, spasticity every day. So there's definitely things that impact. I've got good drugs, frankly, for those things. At the same time, sometimes they still, break through. There is no doubt. I've had some issues with my vision. I've got new glasses that these will become transitional and when it's bright out, because I'm having trouble with being just too much light and sad. I love light, and so anyway, just some things crop up because that's what the nature of MS is. So I do know that I have to be really careful. I didn't get enough sleep for a while. I was really working too hard in January. I got worried about pushing myself too hard. And so something I've been doing, there've been a few things. I've gone back for counseling just to help with just how I handle things, especially what's been going on in the college. I started back last fall, and I just really found it super helpful. And I think I might be coming to the end of that counseling, actually. So we'll see about that. But anyway, I think it was what I needed at the time. I have been getting osteopath on a regular basis, which is helping with my pain and balance issues, etc. I've started doing something called a sound bath, which I'd never heard of before, but it's just the most deeply relaxing thing I'd ever done. And no, it's not bathing while you listen to music, but it's the music giving you the bath. It's just incredible, and highly recommend it. And I think one of the things I've been doing is just turning off my phone and turning off my electronics. At some point, I'm just like, that's it. I'm done. And I know I told you, Mark, one night I cut off my phone at 9. I just turned it off. And the next day I realized between 9 and 1 in the morning, I'd had 78 texts or messages come in. And people are just so upset that they're just sending them to me and talking to me. And so my point isn't that I don't want that to be. I just have to just make sure I do it at certain times sometimes. I have to do it for my eyes. My eyes being hypersensitive is not surprising me in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pause. Okay, Deja. So you'll ask it. So we were just talking about how I'm doing with my health, and essentially I'm just becoming very aware. I mean, fatigue is horrid for me. I have to be so careful. I was beginning to feel weaker. And as soon as I feel that, it's like, okay, listen, Laura, I mean, some years ago now, I made a chart for myself, and the chart has said, this is a symptom I have. And so this is column A, and then column B is if I have this symptom and it goes to this level, then I need to stop because column C is an MS attack. So I start to think, oh, I'm fine. And then I start to feel something that goes into my B column. And that's, even to this day, I think, right, stop what you're doing. Pay attention. What does your body need? And I feel like I have done a really good job of that. Yes, I was very tired. I was working very hard in January, and especially, ridiculously long days of work. And I still love my job. It wasn't that. I was just exhausted emotionally and physically. And so, yeah, I would say absolutely. And of course, that came on the heels of being so distraught last fall with all of the information coming through that I was about to lose all my colleagues, or so many of my colleagues. And that took time, and it was stressful. And so I will say, yeah, in answer to your question, I'm surprisingly okay. I haven't even caught a cold so far, touch whatever wood I want. Where last year I was sick and sick and sick and sick, and I did nothing and went nowhere. And now I'm not even wearing a mask when I go out, and I'm doing fine. Now, sometimes I wear a mask if I'm in a place where there's a lot of crowd, but I'm just feeling confident. I'm feeling well and strong. So in answer to the question, Marg, how am I feeling? I feel great. I feel also sad. I feel like, I think perhaps one of the biggest things that's really working for me is I'm just letting myself feel what I feel. If I'm feeling rotten, I feel rotten.
Thanks, Laura. You briefly mentioned counseling, and I'm bringing it forward again because I think everybody should have a counselor, but that's my own personal opinion. Can you speak to that? I don't mean your personal journey through counseling, but do you feel it is important that people go for counseling, and especially during a challenging time?
Well, that's a fantastic question, Mark. I have always seen counseling as an act of strength. That if you go to do that, it is not a weakness. I've heard some people say that it is. For me, it is just strength to say, right, I need help. I'm not sure how to do this on my own. And for me, I've gone to counseling at various points in my life. And then when I think I'm finished, I stop. And then I've gone back to it for a variety of reasons and for different expertise, as well. When I first got MS, I was the only time in my life I was ever suicidal. And I went to an incredible counselor, and, took me, I was almost 4 years from start to finish when I was very depressed till when I didn't think I was. And being suicidal was a segment of that time. And I've never been suicidal since. So it was just something that I needed help with. I didn't understand what I was feeling and didn't know how to figure it out. And then the list I was showing you, ABC, that came from when I went for counseling for anger. I was really angry. I thought, what is going on? This isn't right. And I was really angry, and I'm not generally angry. I was about to say I'm not an angry person, but actually I think we're all angry sometimes, but I don't tend to feel very angry. And it's not my go-to. What makes me angry is injustice. But this didn't feel unjust. This just felt confusing, and I was just angry. So anyway, that's when I thought, right, how can I avoid getting myself sick if I'm this angry? And so there's where that list came from. But anyway, I've just gone for a long time to counseling. So what does it give you? I think a really good counselor asks you questions that maybe you don't think to ask yourself, or that maybe ask them in a different way than you would, to make you look at things in your life. It isn't like somebody has a magic wand and said, you need to do this and this and this and you're better. They ask good questions. They ask things that really help you to consider your life and your world. So for me, yes, counseling is essential. It's one part of the pile of things I have done for myself. I mean, I have long said, if I can afford it financially or emotionally, try anything. And certainly counseling over the years has been part of that arsenal. And I absolutely credit it for being as well as I am. And in fact, I think, so we've talked about my mother in relation to MS, and that's been the hardest thing for me to talk about. And I think what came out of the counseling I've been going through now is recognizing that I'm carrying old grief and needing to let go of some of that grief in order to, just let the other things flow through me. I have just been it's like it's been sticking rather than letting go, because it's sticking to old things. So I think, yes, counseling was essential to just help me to ask the questions. I mean, she'll ask a question, I'll be just like, that's it. I remember I'm seeing this counselor that I saw before, maybe 5 years ago. And I remember this one day, she's asked me a question and I said, right, I'm done. She says, there's a question I needed. I've been coming to you. I needed that question. And she asked me a question that kind of had the same moment last time. We are going to see each other in 4 weeks instead of 2 and see if I need to continue. And if I do, I do. I mean, awesome. Also, I feel that maybe what I needed for. I sometimes called it an onion layer, peeling back an onion layer. And I said that to, because each time I go through something, peeling something back, getting down to a core. And my therapist said to me, Laura, I would look at it more like a fabric you are weaving things in and out of it. It's not really ever going to be gone. It's just going to be part of the fabric, part of the story. And I love that, because I was always looking for peeling it back to get to the thing where there's nothing left. There's no onion left to cook or do anything with. When of course that doesn't make any sense. So to look at it as part of a tapestry or a fabric, I thought was just such a beautiful kind of way to look at it for me. And so I'm adding it to my tapestry without tainting it. So that's what I'll say to that.
It sounds like you're creating a quilt as opposed to sending it to the recycle, which is an interesting way to, I have a visual now. So thank you for expanding on that. Like I said, I just think it is so healthy for people to access counseling, and I hope any of your colleagues will reach out in that way as well. You mentioned the word unjust, and so is there do you feel that what's happening at the college is unjust? And do you also like that, your body, like, do you feel that you've been wronged that way, or that it's like, I'm planting seeds here just to poke the bear, as you know I like to do.
No bear poked. I'm perfectly happy to answer both. I'm going to start actually with the second question. I have, as far as I ever remember, never thought it was unjust what happened to me. My mother had MS. I'm a genetic reprint. I get that. I did think for a while I didn't understand why I had MS. Why? I mean, my sister used to say to me, God wouldn't do that to you. And I said, God didn't do anything to me. This isn't about that. That's not how I see this at all. So I've never been that person to think, well, this is awful, woe is me. Yes, I've told you that when I get a new symptom, I wallow in self-pity, because it's hard to not have a body part working and to feel like you worked yesterday, it worked an hour ago, it's not working now. And I can get really upset about that. And I let myself feel that for 24 hours until I say, enough already, Laura, that's it. But when it comes to feeling unjust, I mean, to me, it just is. It's not a question of justice or no justice. It is simply just what happened. It is a body I live in. And I am not saying this to sound cheesy or even trite. If I hadn't had MS, I would not be the person I am today. I would be somebody else, but I would not be the person I am today. And from that perspective alone, I am not ever going to say, well, woe is me, this is terrible, this is unjust. I am delighted that I have had experiences. I mean, I know I talked to you about why normal sucks and the disability minor I was able to develop at the college. I am over the moon that I have used my experiences in my body to create something that might be helpful to other people. And I say in my body because thankfully for me, although MS it hasn't really done anything to my brain. It's done things to my brain. I have white scarring apparently all over it. But I mean, it hasn't scarred it in areas that would impact my sense of reasoning or my memory or even emotion for that matter. And so I'm very lucky that for me, it's completely a bodily experience. But your question of whether this is unjust at the college, that's a harder one, because no, there's no injustice or injustice here. It's not like somebody set out to hurt somebody. It's not that somebody's trying to rob anyone of anything. The truth is, the government made a decision to reduce the number of international students we were allowed to have, which immediately across the province targeted this post-secondary amongst other industries. And so both universities and colleges were just badly hit. And we haven't, I mean, I think it's been I've heard different things, but at least 7 years since we've had an increase in tuition. So students are paying the tuition they were 7 years ago. I've heard as much as 12 years ago. So it's somewhere in there that there's probably truth, but certainly we haven't raised it in many, many years. And so we're still working on a budget that's going up and up and up, but not income that is. And so, logically, I know that we have the number of students we had in about 2016. So what do we have? They're reducing the faculty to the same numbers. That makes sense. In history of Ontario, no one has ever seen mass layoffs at a college or a university, and it's happening. It's happening across the college and university sector. And so all I can say about that is this an injustice? No, not on a global level, not on a provincial level, not on an educational level. But is it unjust to watch people have worked their bunnies off to get here? I mean, so many of my colleagues were part-time for 10 years, doing everything they could be to get this full-time gig. And then it was always the golden carrot. You got it, and you were there for life. If you wanted to, you were there for life, unless you did something horrendous that was somehow insubordination, you were there. And that's what we've always believed at university, especially once you get tenure. So I had tenure at the college. So does a number of my faculty finally get full-time, and then they're all gone. And so, and again, it's all based on seniority. So the most recent in are the first ones out. And so is that unjust? No, but it does feel impossibly hard to even know what to say to people who are losing their jobs, which is more than a job that they've worked so hard for to get and thought that they were keeping. And of course, nothing is permanent. I have said to a few people carefully that change is never easy, but I believe that ultimately it's always better. And even if the better is that you're just stronger for it, but there's always something you can hang on to that it's better. And so I'm judiciously saying that. I'm not saying that to everyone, but I do think that this is true, that we have chances here to strive to do other things, to live differently, to be different, and that change is impossibly hard, and that it can also be beneficial. So is it unjust? No, is my answer. So
I'm glad that you said, you're being mindful of who you say that to, because I know when I'm in a situation that, I'm not feeling my best or whatever, and somebody says, well, it could be worse, or I would say, yeah, no, don't say that to me. So how are the students? Are the students affected by this? And I just, before you go to answer that question, Laura, I want to say that I like how you're identifying a situation and you're taking a label away from it. You're walking through, you're walking through the situation. You're not labeling it. Like, in my mind, it's like, this is not just, it's not right. Look at the people that are losing their jobs. And you are, yes, this is so, and so thank you for that. So let's go back to the students. How are they doing?
Well, bless their souls. I am utterly delighted. They are, as always, wonderful. I have had some incredible experiences so far this semester. I mean, this is the semester from hell. And I for so many people, and the students too, in a way, partly because so with 200 support staff gone, there are so many, and I'm not sure there's not more coming. I hope not. So, but all these things that were support to students are now not there. And so we're saying to faculty, well, do your best, you figure it out in the classroom, where we used to be able to say, go do this. Like, we had these things called student success advisors, and there was 24 across the college, and they were people who, if students were struggling or they were cheating, I would say to the person, if you were one of them, Mark, could you handle the student for me? It's this issue, and, you know, address them. And so they go to the student and help the student from the student's perspective and say, hey, you know, your professor asked me to do this. And they have all these supports across the college to help them to not cheat, to do better, to pay attention, to do whatever, depending on what the issue was. And with cutbacks, we've gone from 24 to, yes, 1. And that one person had 90 days because they're also being laid off. So they're done in March. So after March, we will have 0. And so, you know, I had to say to faculty at the startup meeting, because every semester we have a startup meeting, which I host, where we talk about what sorts of things have changed for this new semester that we're going into. And I invite guests in, whatever. Anyway. And, you know, I had to say to them, well, we don't have the student success advisors, and there's one. So if you have a problem, don't expect them to be able to get back to you when they're doing it across the college. And so in your own classroom, you have to handle these issues. And so I had lots of people say, what does that look like? Like, come to me if you have specific questions. Like, you know, I was able to say, if it's a student where they're being bullying somebody, that's different. We get security involved. But in general, it's like, just figure it out. And what's so fascinating to me, I'm sounding like this old lady, I feel like, at the college, because when I came to the college, there was so many things we didn't have. We didn't have student success advisors. We have these things called model shells now, which is a shell or a course shell someone can copy so they don't have to come up with all the PowerPoints and assessments and everything. They're already there for them, because part-time faculty aren't paid to develop courses, right? So it makes sense that we have them. But when I started, we didn't have that. Every semester I had to come up with my own lessons, my own whatever. And so I feel like I'm going, well, back when I was teaching at the beginning, we didn't have this, you know? And so I have to just...
You walked uphill both ways.
I did. I walked uphill. Yes, exactly. And so, oh my gosh. So it's been kind of funny feeling like I'm giggling to myself thinking, well, suck it up, because I mean, it's not what I say, but sometimes I think, you know what, you've been handed everything on a shell, on a platter. I mean, well, on a shell, in a course shell as well, but on a platter, here it is. And so I had the faculty email me and say, well, this is missing in my course shell. You have to do it for me. I'm like, well, I'm not a subject expert in the course. And since you are, you have to do it. Sorry. You know, like I mean, some of the shells just aren't what they need to be. I understand that. And so, but it's better than nothing. And so anyway, my point is just, it's been an interesting time because this is all impacting the students, which is what you asked me. So, you know, how are the students doing? They're struggling, some of them, but, you know, it's also giving me an opportunity to say, come to me, ask me. You know, there used to be things and now there isn't. Come ask me. And so it's creating space for us to be closer in a way and more connected in a way. So as much as it's a bad time, and it really is, and I don't know who to send them to for things, it's also good. So yeah, you had a question, dear.
Every time you speak of your students, there's a light that goes on, Laura. You know, you're overjoyed every time. Not just right here. I've just witnessed you in different settings. You know, when we're having our coffees, and Laura makes great coffee, by the way. And whenever you talk about your students, it's always with joy and excitement. And my goodness, we've got like 7 minutes left. And boundaries. So now you've got colleagues, faculty, students coming to you. And how do you keep your boundaries? I know you said you turn off your phone, and you know, you turn on your phone in the morning and you have 70 plus calls. And then there's emails. And how do you keep your boundaries and voicemails? Yes. And we will need to wrap up shortly. So boundaries, and then what do you want us to take away from today?
Boundaries. I'm very good with boundaries. I always have been. I think I am anyway. I'm really, really clear. If someone comes to me and says, I need, and I will say to them, I hear that this is what you need. This is what I can do for you. This is what I can't do for you. This is who you could go to for that. We could try this. I'm willing to ask this person. So I'm not taking it on. I'm not listening. I will say, I hear this is a struggle, and you know what? I am not trained. Like if a student needs counseling and they come to me and I say, I hear that you're really struggling. I am not a counselor. Counseling is still up and running. So I will say, I can walk you there, literally, figuratively. I can introduce you. I'm not the one. And so that's the kind of thing. Or sometimes somebody will come to me and say a million things, and I'll say about another faculty, student will, or another faculty. And I will say, okay, I need you to stop. I am not the person to tell this to. We need to go to my boss. Here is his number. Here's his contact. I am not the person. And so, but when I am the person, I will say that, what, this is my job. I'm here to help you. Let's find a time to talk. Let's do this. Can we do it on email? Is that all right? Do we need to talk about it? And so I find out what their needs are and try to meet them where their needs are, which is why January was so busy, because there was a lot of questions and a lot of issues. But I think in general, I'm just really good at saying, no, I can't do that, but here's what I can do. Or no, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you. And I do. At the same time, I am listening to people. I have, can I call you? Yes, let's talk. I know I've got this time, I can do that. And, I'd like to have more time, but this is what I can offer. So I'm pretty good at boundaries, because I have to be. And sometimes people have been really upset because they thought it was personal, that they didn't get the extra hours and work. And so they would come to me and say, what did I do wrong? And I was quickly able to say, you didn't do anything wrong. This is just the new policy of the college for the moment. This is across the board. This is nothing you've done. I really am sad for you that you think that it is. And I mean that. And I will say, your contributions have been fabulous. And so I'm just able to try to meet people, but also be really mindful of what I can and can't do. So I'm not sure if that's really an answer, but I'm pretty good at boundaries. Mm-hmm.
It was a great example, and thank you for explaining how you do it. I think it's important for everyone, for the listeners, viewers, to hear in a setting where you have many responsibilities. And I know where your heart is, Laura, and that even when this is happening, you're able to be present and do it in a healthy way. And I think that's so important, because if you were to give of yourself beyond what you can give, then it will not be good for you. And therefore, energetically, because we are all one, it wouldn't be helpful for whoever you're trying to fix. And I know you're a great cheerleader. You're a cheerleader for me and have been for a while. And so thank you for cheerleading me and others in the world. We're close to the end. What would you like to leave us with today before you come back, of course, for another episode?
Wow, there's so many things. Actually, you said something just now that I wanted to respond to. But in general, what I will say is, for me, again, I want to go back to this whole idea of hope and what is big and what is small. And I just hope for anyone who is listening that if you're having a rough time and the bigger hope idea is just you can't get there because it's just too much, think smaller, think littler, try to imagine what can you find hope in right now? Is there anything? Hope in the love of your animal friends, or in your family, or your partners, or your beautiful best friends, or whomever? Is there anything any way you can go smaller and find that in yourself? Because I think that is a really valuable piece of what hope is about. So I know the hope in the world right now, none of us have it. It's a scary place. At the same time, if we think smaller and that we can make a difference by doing something little, that spreads out. As you just said, we're all attached, we're all connected. And so if we start small, maybe what we do can be spread to larger pieces. So for me, the hope doesn't have to be big and out there. It can be small and inside. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. What a great wrap up, Laura. Bite-sized pieces and manageable and doable and giving me hope. Thank you again for joining us. Again, I look forward to seeing you in person, of course, and back again. I wonder what our next topic will be. Thank you, listeners, viewers, for joining us today. Having courageous conversations is what we do. And we look forward to seeing you again next week, next Thursday at 3:00 Eastern Time. Thank you, Deja, for being in the back and for producing our show. And perhaps Maple will be joining you. And when you were talking about joy, Laura, I was thinking, oh yes, Laura has a dog named Joy, and she is so joyful. Bye for now.
Thank you.